Welcome to Super Sunday the week after. Well, we do have Patriots, Valley Patriots, and of course we got Eagles, lots of Canyon Eagles. But unlike last week's event where the average ticket price was $5,309, this event is about $5,309 less. Having said that, I think there's a tip jar around here somewhere, and if you can help out a starving MC, I'd appreciate it. I guess what I'm saying is welcome to an afternoon of sports celebration with a distinct Texas Panhandle flavor. Welcome to a gathering where the best of today and the best of yesterday are honored among their family, friends, fans, and even rivals. Welcome to an idea that has stood the sometimes harsh test of time. Welcome to the 60th annual Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame Ceremonies. 60 years. That's more than half a century. That's a long time. That's longer than 8 years of the Super Bowl, and sometimes it's been longer than the Super Bowl, but not lately. We've made some streamlined changes in recent years, and we've made some major changes, too, for the better. Starting 3 years ago with our new leading sponsor, Kids Incorporated, which, if you are familiar with Kids Inc., is the perfect sponsor for the Hall. And if 60 years sounds like a long time, and it is, Kids Inc. has been around longer by 14 years, 74 years to be exact. So for the third year, thanks to Kids Inc., Executive Director Jimmy Lackey, we are now in a new venue. Through 2015, Amarillo College was the site for this since basketball really had laces. But this is a bigger, roomier site today, and we need the room. It's a good problem to have. And Kids Inc. is the permanent site for the Hall of Fame, where there are now lots of new bells and whistles that at some point you need to come by and visit. So for the 60th time, folks just like you have gathered to reflect and honor the local greats who have earned induction into this shrine that by the end of today will total 178. Also, we'll honor the current crop of athletes and coaches who add to the rich sports tradition of the Panhandle. This afternoon, we will induct number 176, 177, and 178 into the Hall of Fame. And this is pretty unique for this little top of Texas. You know, there aren't many regions which have something like this, or certainly something for this long. You know, I've talked to those from outside the area who have been to these things, and they all seem to say the same thing. You know how nice this is, and I wish we had something like this too. Well, there is one because Pud Powell, who was a longtime Globe News sports columnist, and an advertising executive named John Heatland, put their energies and ideas together in the late 1950s and enlisted the help then of the YMCA and built something a little special, a little unique, a lasting tribute to sports and the men and women who play and coach them in the Panhandle. After their deaths, the baton was passed to men like Garrett Von Netzer, Warren Hassey, and David Jones, among others, to continue on. When the YMCA closed here, well, Kids Inc. enthusiastically stepped in. And for 60 years, it's still going strong. I think it's going strong because the Hall of Fame is not so much about plaques and pictures on a wall and interactive displays, but it's about people. It's about those with dreams and goals, athletes and coaches who love being in the arena, who got to this place by work, by talent, and the competitiveness to be the best they can be every play, every game, every day. Many of you in the audience are their support system. Those on stage here will be the first to say that they are, in so many words, a tree with a deep root system that extends to coaches and parents and wives and husbands, older brother, sister, friends, and certainly to teammates. Many of you have played a big role in their lives, are here today, and you've been, in a way, this kind of honor is your honor as well. But before we move along with the program, there are always former members of the Hall of Fame who come back each year. I think they may come back mainly for the free food and to show off their hearing aids and hip replacements, but hey, they're still here. So if you would you please stand so we can recognize you at this time. And if you think, man, I am tired of being stiffed and I should be in the Hall of Fame, would you please stand so we can... Oh, there's a few. They're still the same one every time. Phil, you might as well give it up. Again, welcome to athletes, coaches, inductees, family, and friends. You'll be glad you gave up a portion of your Sunday afternoon to be here. To voice our invocation is the Executive Director of the Kids Incorporated, Mr. Jimmy Lackey. Jimmy?
Thank you. Would you bow with me, please? Ever-loving and gracious God, we gather here on this, your day, to celebrate the physical and the mental gifts that certainly can only come from you. Lord, I ask your blessing on this ceremony, our awardees, and all who are gathered with us today. I pray that you would fill these honorees with the understanding of how their gifts and talents bring honor to their communities, their friends, their teammates, and certainly their families. God, I ask you to place your loving arms around those who are deployed all over the world, serving our country, protecting our freedoms. Keep all those safe and strong. Be with us during this ceremony today. In all that we do, may we always give you the glory. For it's in your name that we pray. Amen. Well, thank you all for being here. I think you're in for a really wonderful afternoon as we celebrate sports in the Texas Panhandle. Kids Incorporated is certainly proud to serve as the administrator for the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. I want to thank our staff for getting this thing ready to go. They got here early this morning. Took them about an hour. They've got this down to a science, and I'm proud of them. I certainly want to thank Stacy Knight. Probably most of you honorees have talked to Stacy. 90% of this thing's happened because of her, but I think my staff deserves a big round of applause. We're proud to be providing services in other communities besides Amarillo and Canyon now. We've had an office in Elk City for 3 years, and we built an indoor soccer arena with a group of leaders over in Hereford 4 years ago and opened it. And we're asked to take over the YMCA a year ago, March. And with the induction of Hereford's own James Mays, Parker Breadwell being here today, I'm pleased to have the mayor of Hereford. Where's Tom? Tom, thank you for being here. I'm grateful to you for making the trip over, and I know you're proud of these folks too. Tom's been the voice of athletics in Hereford for probably close to 50 years, so I'm sure several of you know him. But as proud as I am for him to be here today, he knows I'm prouder that his wife's here. I get to work with Cindy on a regular basis. Cindy serves as our chairman for Hereford Sports and Wellness over there, and I'm glad that you're with us today. Thank y'all for coming over. Again, thanks for being here. Make yourselves at home. There's snacks, there's drinks, restrooms this direction. From all of us at Kids Incorporated, enjoy the 60th anniversary of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame ceremonies.
Well, this is the portion of the program where the present paves way for the past. This is a day of recognition, not just for the careers and the lives of the 3 inductees today, but for the current accomplishments by some who may one day themselves be in the Hall of Fame. It's the honoring of the coaches and athletes of the year in now 11 sports. You know, the calendar year of 2017 was a typically strong year in the Panhandle with state and national champions, individuals, and team. The Panhandle has always been fortunate to have some of the best coaching in the state, as you'll see later. But that's not to diminish those who make it happen, the athletes, those who, as distance running great Emil Zatopek said, compete with hope in their hearts and dreams in their heads. So let's meet the athletes of the year for 2017. In baseball, the Kierstead name at Randall High School, hard to spell, harder to strike out, has meant baseball excellence. First, there was outfielder Dax, who is playing now in the Miami Marlins organization. For the last 3 years, there has been younger brother Heston. He has been a dominant outfielder for the Raiders and has proven to be one of the top players in the state. As a sophomore in 2015, he was the District 3 5A Newcomer of the Year. As a junior, he was the district MVP, hitting .490 with a pair of home runs and 43 RBIs. And in 2017, as a senior, the 6'3", 180-pounder was the co-MVP of the district, leading Randall to the 5A regional semifinals by hitting a ridiculous .531 with 3 home runs and 33 RBIs, as the Raiders finished with a 29-10 record. He was named first team All-State in Class 5A by the Texas Sports Writers Association. He was on the Globe News Super Team as he helped lead the Raiders to 62 wins in their last 2 years. Heston was drafted in the 36th round by the Seattle Mariners in June, but he's also ranked as the 26th top college prospect in the state. So he signed with the Arkansas Razorbacks. And in this fall, and during the Arkansas's Fall Classic, as they prepared for their season this spring, in one game he was 5 for 5 with a home run, a double. He scored 4 runs and had 3 RBIs. Well, as you can guess, he's currently at the University of Arkansas, where they are about to start the season. So accepting for him is his mother, Jody Kierstad, for the Hall of Fame Baseball Player of the Year from Randall High School, Heston Kierstad. Thank you for being here. In basketball, we'd be here to Valentine's Day if we wanted to talk about all the great basketball players who have played for the Canyon Girls program. So let's talk about only the latest. Point guard Angel Hayden, who led the Lady Eagles to their 4th consecutive Class 5A state championship in March. She was the on-the-court quarterback of a team, and she could do just about what she needed to do to help that team win. And of course, it's Canyon, so they won almost all the time, finishing last year with a 31-3 record and a number 8 finish in the country by USA Today. Angel averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and 4 assists a game. In the state title game, a 47-45 win over Mansfield Timberview, Angel scored a team-high 16 points, had 6 rebounds and 4 assists, and drew 2 key offensive fouls in the last 90 seconds in that tight victory. Said her coach, Joe Lombard, the bigger the game, the closer the score, the better Angel plays. She was a 2-time District 3 5A MVP. She was the Globe News Super Team Player of the Year. She was a 3-time All-State player. She was the Class 6A 5A Girls Athlete of the Year by the Texas Girls Coaches Association. And just for grins, she was a 6-team All-American by Max Preps. The number 23 point guard in the country, she signed with Texas Tech and is currently in her freshman year with the Lady Raiders. The Hall of Fame Basketball Player of the Year from Canyon High School, Angel Hayden. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming up. Congratulations. In cross country, in the past, the sport of cross country has been recognized within the realm of Special Achievement Awards. But with the continued growth and success in this area of this fall sport, it has certainly earned a place among the growing sports of wrestling and softball, which have been added in recent years. And last year marked the first year for cross country to be recognized by itself on an annual basis with the other sports. Well, Wes McPhail of Tascosa didn't have a very good beginning to the season, but he more than made up for that later. After winning the 3-mile race, which boys run, in the first cross-country meet of the season, an injury sidelined him for most of September. But he returned for the Canyon Invitational on September the 30th, won that by commanding 22 seconds, and from that point on, ran like few have in the Texas Panhandle. He would go on to win the 3-mile boys race at 4 different cross-country meets and was second at another. He was a district champion in Odessa in a time of 15 minutes, 54 seconds, and then finished second at the Region 1 6A meet in Lubbock in 14:28, believed to be the fastest clocking ever run by a Panhandle High School athlete. Easily qualifying for the state meet, he met some misfortune at the state meet in a spill and was not in contention. Still, he's signed to run cross country and track at Texas A&M in November. And he's a 4:20 miler in track, so he's going to be heard from this spring before his high school career is over. The Hall of Fame cross country athlete of the year from Tascosa High School, Wes McPhail. Hey, Wes, congratulations. Congratulations. Keep it going. In football, you know, it can be easy sometimes to kind of get caught up in the moment. But if productivity and wins count for something, and they do, then Bushland's Colton Moore had perhaps the finest season ever by a Panhandle quarterback. In the big picture, he led the Class 4A Falcons to 11 consecutive wins and a berth in the Division II quarterfinals, a real breakthrough season for Bushland at the 4A level. In the individual picture, Colton was a dual threat, able to hurt defenses just as easily with his legs as with his arm. First, he passed for 3,731 yards and 37 touchdowns. Now, most quarterbacks who have numbers like that, they don't run very much. Well, Colton did, running for additional 1,736 yards and 35 touchdowns. Add those up, and that's 5,527 yards and 72 touchdowns. And I don't know of any Panhandle quarterback who's had those types of numbers. And he raised his games in the playoffs. How about these totals? 359 versus Midland Greenwood, 468 versus Godley, 493 versus Seminole, and in the last game of his career in a quarterfinal loss to Graham, over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. In 2 years, he accounted for nearly 8,400 yards, or 4.7 miles. And football may not be his best sport. As a catcher in baseball, he is signed to play for Division I Texas State in San Marcos. The Hall of Fame Football Player of the Year from Bushland High School, Colton Moore. Colton, great to see you, man. Congratulations. Great job. Great job. In golf, I guess it's statistically possible to have a better summer of golf than Casey Weiss, but not very probable. Not when you win local golf's major tournaments and then the Tournament of Champions as well. He began his summer by winning the Miller Lite Open by a stroke, won his own club championship, the Tascosa Country Club title, by 7 shots, then teamed with Jarrett Johnson to win the Amarillo Country Club Wingding, and was second in the Tall Tower Open by a stroke. Now, you need only win one of these major tournaments to qualify for the season-ending Tournament of Champions, but Casey won 3 of them. So for the 13th time, he was among a prestigious field of local champions in the season-ending tournament, and he made shambles of the competition. He won for the 6th time with a 4-round total of 9 under par. He punctuated the tournament by shooting a 67 on the final day to win by 10 shots. It was the second largest margin in tournament history. Only his win by 15 shots in 2013 was better. So for his dominant summer season, the 2017 Hall of Fame Golfer of the Year from Amarillo is Casey Weiss. Congratulations, Casey. Great job. Great job. Thank you. In soccer, forward Jaden Lemons of Amarillo High led the Sandies to the second round of the 5A playoffs as one of the top goal scorers in the state. In 23 games, he finished with 33 goals and 4 assists. Included in his strong season was a hat trick in a 6-0 win over Borger in the West Texas A&M Invitational, and 2 goals in a 6-0 by-district win over San Angelo Lakeview. Jaden was the District 3-5A MVP as Amarillo High finished with a 14-2-7 season. In addition, he was named first team All-Region on the Texas Association of Soccer Coaches team. The Hall of Fame Soccer Athlete of the Year from Amarillo High is Jaden Lemons. Jaden, excellent job. Thank you. Congratulations. In softball, Canyon made local history last spring, becoming the first Panhandle team to qualify for the state tournament when the Lady Eagles advanced to the state semifinals. With Kira Lair back for another year this year, they have an excellent chance to return. She was dominant in any way you want to measure it, leading Canyon to a 35-5 record. Her forte was in the circle as a pitcher. She fashioned a 27-2 record that included a 1.72 ERA and struck out 268 batters, just under 10 a game. At the plate, Kira hit .431 with 53 RBIs, and her 12 home runs were part of 82 that Canyon hit last spring, believed to be a national record that broke the old mark of 72. As you might expect, she took home her share of awards. Player of the Year on the District 3-5A team, the Amarillo Globe News Player of the Year, as well as the Happy State Bank Softball Player of the Year, and she was third team All-State as a pitcher. In November, she signed to play in her hometown at West Texas A&M. She's the 2017 Hall of Fame Softball Player of the Year from Canyon High School, Kira Lair. In tennis, Rajiv Saralea of Amarillo High was almost perfect. Few have ever had a school year quite like he did, winning 76 matches and losing just 2 in singles and doubles. One of those 2 losses just shows how close he was to being a 5A state champion. In May, Rajiv became the first Sandy to advance to at least the state semifinals after he easily won his quarterfinal match in the state tournament 6-love, 6-1. He faced Campbell Irwin of San Antonio Alamo Heights in an epic semifinal. Rajiv lost 6-4, 5-7, 7-5 in the third set. Obviously a match that could have gone either way. In the finals, Irwin went on to easily win 6-3, 6-2, so you can see how close Rajiv was. This past fall, in team tennis, Rajiv, as the #1 singles player, led the Sandys to the 5A state championship match before they fell to unbeaten Dallas Highland Park. Rajiv also played with Tauber Short in #1 doubles. He still has this upcoming spring to see if he can earn that state title he came oh so close to winning last year. The Hall of Fame Tennis Player of the Year from Amarillo High, Rajiv Saralea. In track, Butari Ruganerawa's favorite sport, or the sport at least he always played, was soccer. And someone at Amarillo High a couple of years ago had the very bright idea to see if he could run. I don't know what kind of soccer player Butari is, but he'd have to be out of this world to equal what he was or he is as a runner. First, in the fall of 2016, he was the Class 5A state cross-country champion and winner of Athlete of the Year a year ago here in cross country. Last spring, he moved over to track during the spring season. And all he did was what no boy has ever done in Amarillo ISD history: win 2 gold medals at the state meet. It began on the first night, a Thursday, when he cut 9 seconds off his previous best to win the 3200 in 9:20.83. He used a 57-second last lap to pass 3 runners in the last 75 meters, including Graydon Morris of Aledo, and leaned at the tape to beat him by 15/100ths of a second. The next night, Friday night, Butari also had qualified in the 800. Now, it would have been easy to kind of mentally rest off of his gold medal in the 3200, but he didn't. He competed with all he had, cutting 4 seconds off of his regional time to win in 1:53.27, winning by 0.04 of a second. What made it special for Butari is he got to do it in front of 8 siblings. You talk about your own cheering section. The Hall of Fame Track Athlete of the Year from Amarillo High, Butari Ruganarwa. In volleyball, there have been something like 35 players or so in the Amarillo High volleyball program under Jan Barker, who you'll hear more about later, who have gone on to play collegiately at the Division I level. Lexus Kane is among them, and one of the last who learned the game under Coach Barker and went on to star collegiately. She helped lead Amarillo High to the 5A state title in 2013, and then went on to play at Stephen F. Austin University in Nacogdoches. At Stephen F., she made 4 starts as a freshman in 2014, but for the next 3 years, she seldom, if ever, left the court as a libero for the Lady Jacks. As a sophomore, she played all 128 sets, and as a junior in 2016, she played in all 108 sets and earned second team All-Southland Conference. This past fall, it was more of the same as Alexis helped lead the Stephen F. to the LSC, Southland Conference regular season title and a berth in the National Invitation Tournament, where they would lose to eventual champion Ole Miss in the first round. The Lady Jacks finished with a 26-8 record. Alexis was again second team All-Southland Conference. She had more than 540 digs, which was third in the conference, and ranked 5th in the league with 4.5 digs per set. Her defense held opponents to a 1.64 hitting percentage, 30th in the country, and her nearly 1,600 digs is the 5th most in program history. She could not be here today, but accepting as her sister, Erica Delgable, for the Hall of Fame Volleyball Player of the Year from Amarillo High and Stephen F. Austin, Lexus Kane. And in wrestling, you know, it was impossible to do more for his team than what Zach Garza did for the Dumas Demons. All he did was go 40-0 during the 2017 season, capping his high school season with a state championship win at 152 pounds, and by doing so, giving Dumas the necessary points to win the 5A state championship. He had to earn it, though, but he wouldn't have it any other way. He defeated Seth Dixon of Hereford 3-2 in the regional title match, and at the state tournament, he wound his way to face defending state champion Jordan Robinson of Frisco Liberty, who was 51-0. 51-0 met 40-0. But Zach won in a decision 4-2 to take the title. The year before, Zach was state runner-up at 145 pounds, but that loss fueled him to be a champion. He was driven, focused, and relentless, and he was unbeaten. Accepting, though, is his stepfather, J.C. Crew, for the Hall of Fame Wrestler of the Year from Dumas High School, Zach Garza. You might guess that wasn't his stepfather. It's his sister, and Zach has the flu. We can relate. Well, join me once again in recognizing the Hall of Fame Athletes of the Year for 2017. You know, the Super Team Award annually goes to the top team of the year, regardless of sport. And when you include all of these sports and all of these levels in an area like the Panhandle, it has to be a pretty special team, and it is. To present this award is sports editor of the Globe News and Hall of Fame board member Lance Lawnert. Lance?
The C.L. Donovan Jr. Super Team Award goes to a team that is outstanding during the year. Donovan graduated from Amarillo High School in 1930, where he was a 117-pound halfback. He went to Texas Tech in 1931 and played quarterback and returned kickoffs. He played on Texas Tech's first golf and tennis teams in 1931. Later, he boxed for the University of Arizona and had a tryout with baseball's St. Louis Cardinals. In a previous interview with the Amarillo Globe-News, Donovan said, "If you have only one line in the water, you're liable to catch only one fish. If you have several lines in the water, you're liable to catch several fish." He was the only person to win the city championship in golf and tennis. He missed the city bowling championship by 1 pin. He was named the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame Golfer of the Year in 1970 and served as director of the Tri-State Senior Golf Association for many years.
Even for the storied Canyon Lady Eagles basketball program, 2017 was a year soaring to rare heights. Canyon had this target on its back before the season started as owners of 3 consecutive state titles. That's right, the Lady Eagles seniors entered last year having never lost a high school playoff game, and that's still true today. Under legendary coach Joe Lombard, who's like in a mere 6 Hall of Fames, and if he went 0-1,200 in his last 1,200 games, he'd still have a winning record. And he has 19 state titles coaching at Naz and Canyon. He led them to a 31-3 record, and they featured a refuse-to-lose mentality. After all, Canyon actually tied Amarillo High for the District 3-5A championship, and sure enough had to fend off the Lady Sandys 46-42 in a really intense Region 1 final. And that made the trip to San Antonio, and that's the home of the UIL state basketball tournament. Canyon looked brilliant in the state semis, stunning Barbers Hill 66-39. But in the finals, Mansfield Timberview was a whole different story. Timberview had handed Canyon one of its 3 losses during the season. So when the Lady Eagles looked up at the scoreboard in the first half, they're down and seeing a rare sight by 12 points. But led by senior guard Angel Hayden, who's just a fearless player who seems to take over late in every close game I've seen, Canyon had Mansfield lead down to 3 with 2:21 to play. Once Mansfield star player fouled out, Hayden scored the last 5 points of the game, leading the way to a 47-45 victory. The Class 5A state title was the 19th state title in Canyon girls hoop history, the second most of all in Texas. The win over Mansfield stretched Canyon's playoff streak to 28 in a row, which they'll try to add to this week. And in winning 4 consecutive state titles, Canyon became just the 5th girls team in state history, and only the 2nd big school team in Texas to accomplish a 4-peat. As Coach Lombard likes to say, it never hurts to have an angel on your side. For the 2nd straight year, the C.L. Donovan Super Team Award goes to the history-making Canyon Lady Eagles basketball team.
Wow, what an honor, and we appreciate this so much, and it was a special team last year, and I'm honored to accept this on behalf of the team. And girls, I'm going to call your name out real quick. I'm not sure who's here and who's not, but please stand up here. First of all, Coach Johnny Hampton, Coach Cody Smith helped me coach this team last year. I had seniors Macy King, Cody Bradstreet, Faith Norman, Lexi Hernandez, Mackenzie Taylor, Angel Hayden. My juniors were Aisha Allison. Go ahead and stand up, girls. Maddie Rowland, Maddie Willis, Heather Davis, Blair Winings, Channing Cunya's. Sophomores last year, Caitlin Spiegel, Ryan Patterson, Briley Winfrey. Had a freshman, Carter Cluck. And I know it was a special team. We had great fans, great parents that support us all the way through that run. And if I think of this team, and I think all of us would probably agree that we're part of this, senior leadership was one that will always be remembered, great team chemistry, and then just all sacrificing for the good of the team. Those things will stay with us forever. And we appreciate winning this award, and we thank you very much.
Congratulations to the Canyon girls. Well, now we move on to a group that has sat here patiently looking at all these athletes of the year, marveling to themselves how well they must listen, how well they must take instruction, just how wonderfully coachable they must be. And this is a group of athletes who are thinking, you know, it's people like us that make people like you look good. It's the coaches of the year for 2017. In baseball, it was another solid, productive year for Coach Matt Vanderberg in the West Texas A&M Buffaloes, who won the Lone Star Conference tournament for the second year in a row and for the fourth time advanced to the NCAA Division II postseason regional tournament. WT finished with a 36-18 record, the third straight year of at least 36 wins, and the 18 losses are the fewest losses in Coach Vanderberg's career. It was also the fifth straight year of 30 or more wins at WT. WT set a school record with 9 straight wins to open the season. The Buffs' strength was their pitching and defense. Buff pitchers led the nation in strikeouts per 9 innings with 11 and set a school record in team ERA at 3.20. Defensively, they set a school record with fewest errors with 54, and their .970 fielding percentage was the best in school history. He should get his 300th career victory this spring for the Buffs in his 9th year. The Hall of Fame Baseball Coach of the Year from West Texas A&M, Mark Vanderberg. Well, in basketball, you might think of these winners as sort of the Mount Rushmore of basketball coaches for 2017. 4 coaches, 4 state championships. You know, Saturday, March 4th, 2017 was an historical sports day in the Texas Panhandle as a conveyor belt of not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 state girls basketball champions came rolling out of the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Nazareth coach Eric Schilling was asked about the Panhandle dominance just before his 1A state title game, which was the final one of the 4. He told the press, he said, "I think each team has just gone out there and tried to bring home one for their school and community. It just happens. We're 7-0, meaning the Panhandle was at the state tournament, and hopefully we'll be 8-0. We're all rooting for each other, but I don't think there's a message or anything that we've sent. So I'm not sure if they're all co-coaches or maybe they're quad coaches, but don't know. We've never had this before, but they are all winners. So let's start with the highest classification winner. Some call it the Class 5A bracket of the state tournament, but to most it goes by its more accurate name, the Joe Lombard Invitational. Sometimes these numbers, they get a little confusing, but we believe this, we know this to be Canyon's 4th consecutive state title, 19th overall for Coach Lombard, the 13th at Canyon. After rolling past Barbers Hill in the semifinals 66-39, the title game was a tight one. A 47-45 win over Mansfield Timberview, one in which the Lady Eagles had to overcome a 12-point first-half deficit. But as the trademark of so many of Joe's teams, they had the poise and the confidence to execute down the stretch when the pressure is the highest. After the season, Coach Lombard was named the National Girls High School Coach of the Year by USA Today, as the Lady Eagles finished with a 31-3 record. He was closing in on his 1,300th career win last year, and a number that he has eclipsed this year. He's the godfather, the Hall of Fame co-basketball coach of the year from Canyon High School. I know he feels like he's on a spring over here, Coach Joe Lombard. Joe. You've been called worse, I know. For Canadian, Kevin Richardson has been close with his Lady Wildcats on multiple occasions. He came to Canadian from Abernathy in 2001, and since then he's been to 4 regional finals and 2 state tournaments. But the breakthrough happened this past year, somewhat ironically after Canadian moved up from 2A to 3A. The Lady Wildcats won the state title with a dramatic 51-49 win over Buffalo. And it was a game in which they forced 3 turnovers in the last 53 seconds and then withstood a game-winning 3-pointer at the buzzer that hit the back of the rim. MVP Haven Risley had a game-high 20 points in that championship game, 13 of them in the third quarter. The win was Canadians' 33rd against only 3 losses. Coach Richardson is a native of Canyon, and his wife Darcy actually played him for Coach Lombard on the '92 state championship team. He's the Hall of Fame co-basketball coach of the year from Canadian High School, Kevin Richardson. Rob Schmicker left Alvord, which is between Wichita Falls and Fort Worth, for Panhandle in 2014, and has coached his teams up to navigate the minefield that is Class 2A girls basketball in West Texas, where good teams are in abundance. The 2016 season was a bittersweet one for the Pantherettes, who advanced to the 2A state title game before falling to Weimar 52-47. There was obviously a real drive to get back and see if they could do just a little better in 2017. It's not easy. Just because you're disappointed doesn't mean you're going to get back there. But Panhandle proved to be a cut above. They made it through tough Region 1, bounced Woodin 62-37 in the semifinals, and then held off Martins Mill 50-43 in the championship game, as 3 Pantherettes were in double figures, led by Grace Keeler's 12 points. Panhandle had beaten Martins Mill the year before in the semifinals. The state championship was on the 25th anniversary of Panhandle's last state title in 1992. The Hall of Fame co-basketball coach of the year from Panhandle High School, Rob Schmicker. You know, I've often wondered what they do with state basketball trophies at Nazareth. You know, some are used for doorstops, or are they used for paperweights? I mean, if you go to a garage sale in Nazareth, do you see one hidden between the lamps and the curtains, or what? Because they got 21 of them now, which is a state record and is second in the nation. The latest and the third in 4 years was the coaching work of Eric Schilling, who's now won 3 state titles in 4 years at Nazareth. Nazareth arrived at the 1A state tournament and made quick work of Slocum in the semifinals, 63-31. Playing for their 21st state title, Coach Schilling's Swiftettes took control with a strong third quarter that broke open a 22-22 tie as Nazareth defeated Dodge City 48-42. Allie Schulte, the tournament MVP, had 13 points and 8 rebounds in the finals. It was the 35th win in a row for Nazareth. The only loss was the season opener against Class 5A Amarillo High. The Hall of Fame co-basketball coach of the year from Nazareth High School is Eric Schilling. Great season, man. Keep it up. Good job. It should be noted, as mentioned before, that, Coach Richardson is from Canyon. Panhandle coach Rob Schmicker is from Nazareth. Eric Schilling is from Nazareth, coaching in his hometown. I'm not an athletic director, but if I want a good girls basketball program, I like to see who's available in those two places. All right, moving on to cross country. Well, they may not play basketball. They may not only play basketball in Nazareth, they also run cross country too. Hey, what better way to stay in condition for basketball if you can win a state title? Hey, so much the better. Mandy McKeever is head girls cross country coach at Nazareth. It takes a real motivator to get kids to buy into the demands of training and to excel on a state level. Training that often begins much earlier in the summer before school even starts. Nazareth didn't have much of an issue rolling to the 1A state championship. They prepped for the postseason by rolling to an easy regional win at May Simmons Park in Lubbock, taking the regional title with 46 points, with Hartley a distant runner-up with 104. At the state meet in Round Rock on November the 4th, Nazareth won in fairly convincing fashion, finishing with 47 points, while Cumbie was second with 74. Caitlin Kleeman, April Schmicker, Kyanne Dunn, and Maggie Nelson were all in the top 10, and the other scoring runner, Emma Kleeman, was 15th, all of that out of 149 runners. All ran their 2-mile race between 12 minutes 33 seconds and 12:56. The second year for cross country to be recognized on its own, and the Hall of Fame Cross Country Coach of the Year from Nazareth, Mandy McKeever. Congratulations, Mandy. Thank you. In football, I don't know if Colby Carthel had an inferiority complex or around close family. I doubt he did, but he didn't have bragging rights. I mean, there was his dad, Don, West Texas A&M's all-time winningest coach and a member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. His wife, Sarah, a high school state volleyball champion at Amarillo High, a national champion at WT. She, too, a member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. But Colby can puff out his chest a little. Okay, he can puff it out a lot. Things have been rolling pretty good at A&M Commerce for a while under Colby, but in December, they reached new heights with a national championship. Coach Carthel has deep Panhandle ties. He grew up in Freona, where he played football and threw the discus and shot a little bit. He went on to play at Angelo State and began a coaching career that had him as the defensive coordinator under his dad at WT for 7 seasons. But he became the head coach at Commerce in 2013. And from 2014 to 2016, won 3 consecutive Lone Star Conference titles. Then came this past fall, a Division II national championship and a 14-1 record. The Lions did it the hard way. The first 3 games on the road against teams with a combined 34-1 record. The Lions won the championship with a 37-27 win over West Florida, and I'll just say that a lot of folks in the Panhandle felt like it was their team too. There were 5 players from the Amarillo Canyon area on the team, including freshman linebacker Dane Douglas of Canyon, who played in all 14 games. Colby also had the most overqualified special teams quality control coach in NCAA history, and his dad, Don. The Lions had 3 consensus All-Americans, including quarterback Luis Perez, the Harlan Hill Award winner, which is the Division II version of the Heisman Trophy. What a season. You know, several years ago, in order to streamline the ceremonies, we eliminated acceptance remarks from the coaches and athletes of the year. But there's a little-known clause in this that says, if you flew in from Dallas, if you've never won a Coach of the Year award, and you've won a national championship, not only do you get to speak a little bit, but we want to hear you speak. The Hall of Fame Football Coach of the Year from Freona and A&M Commerce, Colby Carthel.
they didn't ask if I wanted to speak, but I guess I will. I will stand up here and say I'm proud to say I'm the third best coach in my family. And got a tremendous family, and I appreciate them being here. I appreciate the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. Again, we've been on a good run at A&M Commerce with a lot of success, but this is the first Coach of the Year award I've ever received. And these coaches will tell you, you don't coach for awards, but it is nice to be recognized. And so I greatly appreciate this opportunity and this recognition from the fine folks of the Texas Panhandle. I also want to thank Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs for beating OU and Lincoln Riley, because if they hadn't, Lincoln Riley won the national championship, he'd be here, and I'd be back at home in Commerce. So thank you, Georgia Bulldogs. But we had a special year. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate my mom for making all the brownies. Appreciate my dad. He's a pretty good assistant coach. Was a decent head coach, too. And, of course, my wife is the rock behind everything. But our motto this year at A&M Commerce was to the top. And it had two meanings. To the top. We wanted to take our program to the top and compete for a national championship, which we were able to do. We also wanted to bring glory, praise, and honor to the top, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I think we were able to do that. But third thing, and maybe a little hidden meaning, I hope it brought a little recognition to the top of Texas, to the Texas Panhandle, which is home and home of the finest people on the planet. Thank you very much.
Does your dad take orders from you, Colby? Not very good. Not very well. I didn't think so. In golf, the Happy Boys team under veteran coach Barry Stevens put an exclamation point on a 3-year run in its classification that had not been seen by a Panhandle golf team in a long, long time. In 2015, a very young team of a junior, 4 sophomores, and a freshman finished second in the 1A state tournament in Austin. In 2016, a focused and hungry group of cowboy golfers won the 1A state title with a 2-day total of 673, winning by 51 strokes. Well, that was the warm-up to last spring and year 3 of this dominance. Happy repeated as 1A state champion, shooting even better than they did the year before. The Cowboys had a 2-day total of 638, winning by 37 strokes over runner-up Eula. Happy shot a first day 323, leading by just 6 strokes, but blew away the competition on day 2 with a 315. Cowboy golfers Sterling White and Mitchell Downing finished 1-2 in the medalist race, with White going 71-73 for 144 and Downing 71-76 for 147. Also on that state championship team were Trevor Phillips, Carson Bryan, and Colton McCarley. It was Happy's second state title in any team sport, the other one, golf, in 2016. And it was Coach Stevens' second state championship in 43 years of coaching various sports. For the 3rd year in a row, the coach who kept them focused and on point, the Hall of Fame Golf Coach of the Year from Happy High School, Barry Stevens. Great job, man. Very good job. You betcha. In soccer, this past fall, West Texas A&M coach Chad Webb took a fairly young team to the 2nd round of the NCAA regional tournament. The Lady Buffs earned an automatic bid to the postseason by winning the Lone Star Conference title, the 7th time that has happened. Despite seeded 3rd, WT won the title on the road at San Angelo, defeating Angelo State 1-0 on a header by Chanel Arjun in the 75th minute. Then in the South Central region, WT again played Angelo State, and almost a carbon copy of the previous game, also won 1-0. They ultimately fell to host UC Colorado Springs 1-0 in the 2nd round. The Buffs finished with 11, 7, and 5 mark. 3 players earned all conference honors. Freshman defender Cheyenne Orozco on first team, and midfielders Noer Haywash and Kadira Debasset on second team. All but 2 of those players returned in 2018. Coach Webb has been a part of the WT soccer program since he was a player for Coach Butch Lawfer from 92 to 95. He was a student assistant, graduate assistant, and for 13 years an assistant under Coach Lawfer for both men's and women's programs until he took over the women in 2010. Accepting for him is Baseball Coach of the Year Matt Vandenberg for the Hall of Fame Soccer Coach of the Year from West Texas A&M, Chad Webb. In softball, boy, Coach Nicole Coffey of Canyon has got it going on. In 2016, they came oh so close to being the first area team to qualify for the state tournament, losing in 3 games in the 5A regional final. But they broke open in a big way in 2017. In a year in which they set a national high school home run record, the Lady Eagles became the first Panhandle team to advance to the state 5A tournament, advancing to the state semifinals by losing a heartbreaker to eventual state champion, the Colony, 3-0 in extra innings. Canyon finished with a 35-5 record with a combination of power. 4-year starter Sloan Precure led the way with 12 home runs, and the pitching of Kira Lair, who was 27-2 with a 1.72 ERA and 268 strikeouts. The Lady Eagles were especially dominant in the playoffs. Against 5 teams leading up to the state tournament, in 10 games, Canyon outscored the opposition 89-34. Coach Coffey is 126-31 in her 4 years at Canyon. The former Pampa softball player had only 1 year of coaching experience, that at Lake Worth, before hired at Canyon for the 2014 season. For the second time, the Hall of Fame Softball Coach of the Year from Canyon High School, Nicole Coffey. Nicole, great job. Congratulations. Keep it going. In tennis, in his 12th year at Amarillo High, Coach Kobe Otto had a first ever for the Sandy tennis program. The boys and girls combined to advance to the UIL State Tennis Tournament, the first time that's ever happened at Amarillo High. To do that, they had to get by a very tough neighbor in the 1-5A championship in Wichita Falls. Amarillo High, ranked number 2 in the state, squared off against number 5 Randall. Thanks to a sweep in the boys' doubles and singles, the Sandys won 11-5 to punch their ticket to College Station into the state tournament. In 5 playoff rounds to get to state, Amarillo High outscored Abilene Cooper, Clint Horizon, Lubbock Cooper, Wichita Falls Rider, and Randall by a combined 51 matches to 9. At the state tournament, the Sandys defeated San Antonio Alamo Heights 10-6 in the semifinals to advance to the state title match against unbeaten and number 1 ranked Dallas Highland Park, who had handed the Sandys one of their only 2 previous defeats. Highland Park was too much, prevailing 11-2 in the finals. But a regional championship and a state runner-up finish was without question the best team tennis season ever at Amarillo High. And the leader of that team and that group, the Hall of Fame Tennis Coach of the Year, Kobe Otto. Kobe, great job. Great job. Thanks very much. You bet. In track, the spring of 2017 marked a remarkable full circle for West Texas A&M coach Darren Flowers. 7 years previous, he started the program from scratch, nothing there. And last May in Bradenton, Florida, his women's team was crowned Division II national champions. He guided the WT women to the national championship with 64 points, the highest winning total at nationals in 3 years. 3 individuals won national titles: Fatima Fessi in the long jump, Ellie Caputin in the triple jump, and Norma Coonigan in the discus. And the 400 relay also won gold. The women had 10 All-Americans and set 2 school records at nationals. Meanwhile, Coach Flowers was also the head coach of the men, who finished 9th with 28 points. WT was only among a handful of teams to finish in the top 10 in both men and women in recent history of the NCAA meet. He's also the men's cross-country coach, and 13 times Darren has been named LSC Coach of the Year in one of those sports. He was a 2-time South Central Regional Coach of the Year. He led WT to 12 LSC titles in cross-country and in track. Not surprisingly, other opportunities came along, and Darren last June got an offer he couldn't refuse as head coach at the University of Rio Grande Valley, formerly UT Pan American in Edinburgh. So with their season going right now in the indoors, he could not be here, but to accept as last year's assistant and his successor as head coach, Matt Stewart, for the Hall of Fame Track Coach of the Year, Darren Flowers. Congratulations. Good luck to you this week. In volleyball, back many years ago when I was first aware of Troy Fry, his sport was a ball and a net, but that was basketball, where he was a standout at Caprock and then later at West Texas State in the late 80s and in the early 1990s. In his coaching career, he has coached his share of basketball, but now at Sanford Fridge High School, he has taken on the added duties of volleyball. He's obviously been a quick study of the game. And truthfully, it helps when your daughter Zoe is one of your top players. But for the second year in a row, the Lady Eagles advanced to the Region 1-2A semifinals, where they fell to regional champion Archer City. It was an exceptional year for the young program, which finished with a 34-4 record. They were led by Troy's daughter Zoe, as well as Shaylee Garrison and Ashton Melton. In the playoffs, Fritz swept both Van Horn and Post with no game closer than 6 points before elimination from Archer City. He's the Hall of Fame Volleyball Coach of the Year from Sanford Fritch, Troy Fry. Troy. Congratulations, Troy. Great job. You bet. Thanks, sir. And in wrestling, Dumas head coach Clint Chamblin may not have had overwhelming number of elite wrestlers, but what he had was a team full of depth who seemed to bring their A game at every match that made it a losing battle for opponents to keep up. The Demons won the 5A state title last February in Austin with 92 points, edging Randall's runner-up title of 91 points in a 1-2 Panhandle sweep. Now, to be fair, a clerical error cost Randall a point and a tie, but a mention of that should not and does not detract what Dumas and Coach Chamblin rightfully accomplished. At the District 3 5A meet, Dumas overwhelmed the field with 302 points and qualified as school record 14 wrestlers to regionals. At the regionals in El Paso, it was Dumas's depth on display. 2 wrestlers, Braxton Montgomery at 132 pounds and Zach Garza at 152, won regional titles. But 13 of 14 wrestlers placed in the top 6. Because of that, Dumas easily won the regional crown with 238.5 points, 96 more than Randall. At the state tournament, Garza was that exceptional wrestler, capping an unbeaten season with a title at 152 pounds. It was a crucial win, as you'll hear more about in a minute. But again, Dumas's depth made the difference. 10 wrestlers qualified for state, and 4 had top 6 finishes. Jesse Martinez was 4th at 106 pounds. Landon Williams and Braxton Montgomery were 5th at 120 and 132 pounds. And Gilbert Falcone was 6th at 160 pounds. For Coach Chamblin, his career dual record is 110 and 29, and he has won 82 matches the last 4 years at Dumas. His teams have had 5 top 5 finishes at state, but none quite like last year. The 2017 Hall of Fame Wrestling Coach of the Year from Dumas High School, Clint Chamblin. Congratulations. Great job. Great job for all you guys. Well, join me once again in recognizing the 2017 Coaches of the Year. Well, the Leslie and Nard Cazell Big Play Award goes to the person or persons who executes what is determined to be the biggest play of the year in 2017. Boy, there's always a lot to choose from, but only one can win. And this one came at a most dramatic time 1 year ago in a sport that you don't often think about having a big play. So to present that award is Hall of Fame committee member Phil Woodall. Phil?
The Leslie and Nard Cazell Big Play Memorial Award goes to an athlete who made an outstanding or crucial play during the year. Cazell was one of the founding fathers of competitive gymnastics and watched happily as the sport experienced a boom in popularity in recent years. Starting just after World War II, Cazell founded Nard's Gymnastics School in Amarillo and trained hundreds of future collegiate, national, and youth champions. He was one of the first to train girls in the sport. In 1994, the United States Gymnastics Federation honored him with the organization's Lifetime Achievement Award. Cazell was just the fifth person so honored by the Federation. He graduated from Amarillo High in 1933. He had an interest in swimming and diving as a child. When he joined the Navy, he discovered a trampoline the Navy used in training and fell in love with tumbling and acrobatics. After the war, Cazell discovered children could get scholarships for tumbling and gymnastics, and he decided to coach. He soon developed a thriving school and coached many national trampoline and all-around gymnastics champions.
John Mark has already referred to Zach Garza, Wrestling Athlete of the Year, and also to Coach Chamblin as the Wrestling Coach of the Year. And we've already gone about this was the first state championship in wrestling for Dumas. And winding up his career, Zach Garza became a four-time state medalist. Well, the Big Play Award is, he mentioned that he defeated a defending state champion and an unbeaten Jordan Robinson of Frisco Liberty 4-2. And I guess you guys were checking those out at that time, those point totals and stuff. And I guess maybe you kind of figured out, hey, we may have just won the state championship. And what they also forget when they said unbeaten Jordan Robinson, how about at the end of it, guess who was unbeaten for Dumas? Zach Garza. So the Big Play Award goes for that tremendous activity of winning that state championship for Dumas, and let's see how it happened. He won that in the 152-pound category. Looked like his muscles weighed 152 pounds. To accept the award on the Big Play Award will be his sister, Serena Garza. And I'm also going to do something, too. I'm going to let Clint Chamblin talk about that, too, his coach. Serena? Okay. She has deferred her time to coach.
Thank you. At that moment, we told Zach that, well, before we were in the tunnel where we walk out before the finals, Zach looked at me and said, Coach, can we still win it? And we were, I think, in second place at the time, and I said, no. I said, don't worry about it. Just take care of yourself. Everything else will work itself out. And so we actually lied to him and told him that we were out of the team race, and we didn't want to try to put any more pressure on him than what was already ahead of him because, like they mentioned, Jordan Robinson was the returning state champion. He was an All-American. He was undefeated. and that bracket was just really tough. Right up the road, Seth Dixon from Hereford, super tough, talented kid. He had only had a couple losses, and both of those were to Zach, and so it was an extremely tough bracket, and for Zach to come out and do what he did, I mean, it was just two extremely gifted, talented guys going at it, and with a lot on the line, and Zach ended up wrestling the best match of his career, and then he goes on, we win that match, we win the state title, and then he goes out to senior nationals and becomes an All-American, placed 6th place in the nation out at Virginia Beach, and then goes on a full ride scholarship to Ellsworth Community College, so in Iowa. So what he did for our community, and then in that moment was truly amazing, and just super proud of him. Thank you.
Special Achievement Awards were started a number of years ago to recognize athletes or teams who often do not fit in these 11 sports or whose achievements within them merit their own recognition. And to present these Special Achievement Awards today is a Hall of Fame committee member, Steve West. Steve?
It's my honor to present these awards after all of these outstanding accomplishments that you've heard of and you're going to see later. I think you'll understand and agree once you hear these specific accomplishments that they are very deserving. As mentioned before, Happy High School has had incredible success the past few years in multiple sports. Last year in 2017, Sterling White and Mitchell Downing led the Cowboys to their second consecutive 1A state golf championship in Austin. Sterling White won the gold medal for low score with 2 rounds of 71-73 for a total of 144. Mitchell Downing won the silver medal with a score of 71-76, a total of 147. And a very interesting side note, Mitchell Downing won the silver medal at the state tournament for 4 consecutive years, freshman through senior year. It's just incredible. Sterling is now playing basketball at WT, and I understand he couldn't be here today. Mitchell is playing golf at WT. So from Happy High School in West Texas A&M, accepting for Sterling White is Ted White and Mitchell Downing. Butch Lawfer joined the WT staff in 1991, where he started the WT men's soccer program. In fact, he's the only coach that program has ever had. He was recently appointed the assistant coach for the under-17 women's team for Trinidad and Tobago. Not a bad assignment out there in the Caribbean, if you ask me. In 2017, Coach Lawfer won his 500th career victory with a 13-2 victory over University of Texas Permian Basin. All 506 victories that he's now compiled have come at WT, 316 in the men's program and 190 in the women's program. And if you know Coach Lawfer, when was asked for a quote, he said, "I never scored a goal in any of those games." Great players, great assistants, great administrative support. So accepting for Coach Lawfer, my understanding, is Stephanie Sumter. In the last 10 years, David Carino has led the Randall High School boys wrestling team to 3 state championships, 4 second-place finishes, 2 third-place finishes, and 1 fourth-place finish. 4 years ago, he started a girls wrestling program at Randall High School. In this past year, 2017, both the boys and the girls wrestling teams from Randall High School finished in the top 3 at the state wrestling tournament, with the boys coming in second and the girls, in only their 4th year in existence, coming in third. For the first time in UIL history, one high school program placed both squads in the top 3 at the state tournament. Coach David Carino, Randall High School Wrestling. Powerlifting competitions include athletes competing in the squat, bench press, and deadlift, plus the total weight lifted. And they compete in weight classes, which will be important when you see the winner here in just a second. Janet Bessaril of Perryton put up some numbers that are absolutely amazing. She's a 2-time state champion at 94 pounds, 2016-2017. She's a two-time national champion at 94 pounds and a one-time national champion at 103 pounds, 2016, 2017. She's a two-time world champion for the sub-junior 43 kilogram, I had to ask, that's 94 pounds, in 2016 and 17. Janet holds 7 state records for individual lifts. She holds 3 national records for lifts, and she holds 2 world records for lifts. Now listen to this, at 94 pounds, she bench pressed 182.9 pounds, right at twice her body weight. If I could do that, I'd be in the Olympics, all right? I don't know if they got a bar that would hold it, first of all, but also another world record, a total lift of 767.2 pounds, more than 8 times her body weight. So it's just absolutely amazing. From Perryton, now attending Angelo State University, Janet Besseril. Michael Stigler from Canyon High School has quite a record of achievement. High school state champion in the 110 and 300 meter hurdles, high school All-American, Big 12 freshman male athlete of the year, multiple Big 12 championships, multiple times college All-American, finalist at the Olympic trials in 2016, two-time Midwest track athlete of the year, NCAA champion in the 400 meter hurdles in 2015. 2017, he finished second in the 400 meter hurdles at the United States Track and Field Championships in Sacramento in a personal best of 48.26 seconds. If you've ever run 400 meters, that's a long ways. It's a hard race. If you've ever run the hurdles, that's a hard race. You put hurdles in front of somebody running 400 meters and do it in 42.2, that is incredible. We've got the Olympics coming up in a couple of years, and I would love to see Michael Stigler there. I think there's a decent chance of that. From Canyon High School and University of Kansas, Michael Stigler, 400 meter hurdler, and accepting for him is Jace Vessels. I looked up the definition of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a form of martial arts where a smaller person can successfully defend against larger opponents or assailants using technique, leverage, taking them to the ground, and my favorite parts, using joint locks and chokeholds to subdue them. That's my favorite part since I'm not down there with them. But David Parker of Amarillo began jiu-jitsu to stay active and in shape. He was a wrestler in high school in those years, and so he began just to stay in shape, and he's accomplished much more than that. In 2015, David Parker won the Light Feather Master World Championship in the Blue Belt division, and in 2017, David won the Light Feather Master World Championship in the Purple Belt division. David is currently a brown belt. That's the last step before attaining the black belt. From Amarillo, Jiu-Jitsu World Champion, David Parker. Thank you.
You know, winning a state or national championship is the ultimate achievement for a high school or college athlete, be it an individual or team. To go as far as you can go and then be recognized as the best in your class, your sport, your event, is what many dream and work for, but just very, very few achieve. In 2017, there were 32 from the Texas Panhandle, be it college or high school, who achieved this honor. What we'd like to do is recognize you at this time. So when you hear your name, or if you're a member of a team and you hear your team's name, what we'd like to do, if you're a player, a head coach, assistant, a trainer, a manager, if you would you please stand? And would you remain standing until all have been recognized? And I would ask you to hold your applause until that time. Collegiately, from West Texas A&M, national champions are Relly Caputin, triple jump, NCAA Division II Outdoor Track Championships. Fatima Fessi, long jump, NCAA Division II Outdoor Track Championships. Norma Kunigan, discus, NCAA II Outdoor Track Championships. The 400 relay, comprised of Fatim Afesi, Shanice Cameron, Kennedy Hudson, and Jasmine Pitts, NCAA Division II Outdoor Track Championships. And collectively, the Lady Buffs 2017 Women's Track Team, your Division II National Champions. In high school, Team State Champions. In boys wrestling, the Dumas Demons, Class 5A. In girls basketball, the Nazareth Lady Swifts, Class 1A. The Panhandle Pantherettes, Class 2A. The Canadian Lady Wildcats, Class 3A. And the Canyon Lady Eagles, Class 5A. In boys track, the Valley Patriots, Class 1A. In girls golf, the Memphis Lady Cyclones, Class 2A. Boys golf, the Happy Cowboys, Class 1A. In girls cross country, the Nazareth Lady Swifts, Class 1A. Individual state champions. In boys wrestling, Jonathan Ortegon, Randall, 106 pounds. Xavier Torres of Randall, 126 pounds. Jake Gibbs, Bushland, 138 pounds. Zach Garza of Dumas, 152 pounds. In tennis, Ali Schulte and Cameron Schulte of Nazareth in the 1A doubles. Jackson Holting and Tanner Hooper of Tulia, Class 3A boys doubles. And in golf, Sterling White, Happy, 1A state medalist. In girls track and field, Lovely Williams of Shamrock, 1A 100 meters. The Happy Cowgirls 1A 400-meter relay, comprised of Kenna Bryan, Abigail Drake, Riley Johnson, and Michaela Weavers. In boys track and field, Zachary 80 of Happy, 1A 200 meters. Carson Bryan of Happy, the 1A 300-meter hurdles. Dalton Fortner, LaFours, 1A triple jump and 1A high jump. Jake Merrill of Valley, 1A 3,200 meters, 1A 1,600 meters, and 1A 800 meters. Look out, James. The Valley Patriots 1A 800 relay, comprised of Dax Allen, Adrian Espinoza, Jayton Smith, and Juan Villarreal. Andrew Ruida of Wellington, 2A 1,600 meters. Dalton Rigdon, Perryton, 4A long jump. Remington Crossnow, Bushland, 4A 300 meters, hurdles. Butari Ruganarwa, Amarillo High, 5A 3,200 and 800 meters. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2017 national and state champions. Remind you, for your individual winners, you have award certificates at the back table that you can pick up at the conclusion of the ceremonies. Well, the Dick Reisenhoover Award goes each year to a local sports figure whose accomplishments reach beyond the Texas Panhandle, just as Reisenhoover did as a local broadcaster when he became the Texas Rangers' first play-by-play radio man in 1972. To present the award is Hall of Fame committee member and Globe News sports editor Lance Launard. Lance?
The Dick Reisenhoover Award honors a person who received national sports recognition during the year. Dick Reisenhoover was born in Childress and lived most of his early years at Center, a community east of Childress. He played freshman basketball and baseball at the University of Texas, then went into the service where he coached and played on the baseball team. Returning to the University of Texas, he played on the 1950 Longhorn National Championship baseball team. In 1957, Reisenhover moved to Amarillo and worked at KGNC Radio and Television, where he became the voice of the Gold Sox and served as colorman for Warren Hasse on WTSU football games. He moved to Dallas in 1970 and immediately fell into Super Bowl coverage with the Dallas Cowboys, doing some preseason Cowboy games and the Texas-Oklahoma TV game one year. Later, when the Texas Rangers went to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, he did the TV game the first year, then went on to the network, where he became the voice of the Texas Rangers. In 1974, Reisenhover became the 31st honoree and the first sportscaster installed in the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. Dick died of cancer on the opening day for the Texas Rangers in 1978.
Yeah, and another thing about Dick, he was a basketball coach at Childress, so to recall his games, obviously this is a different era, no video and things like that, he would put a tape recorder by his side, put a microphone up, so when the kids were playing, he was like calling out the play-by-play. And so it was kind of crazy. The kids would look over and like, what's going on, Coach? But anyway, that's how he got to start announcing. And let me just say, this year's Reisenhover Award winner doesn't call out his own play-by-play while doing his baseball thing, but he knows all about never giving up on a dream and certainly lives up to past Reisenhover winners, representing the 806 on the big stage in an impressive way. Past winners include 1974 American League Rookie of the Year and Big League manager Mike Hargrove of Perryton, Super Bowl champions Kenny King of Clarendon and John Ayers of Canyon. You have Ryan Palmer, he's on the tour, his 15th year starting this year. He's from Amarillo High, and we're honored to have in the audience today the 2007 Reisenhover winner and a Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame member, Olympic wrestling gold medalist Brandon Slay of Tascosa, who flew in from Philly for this. Fly, Eagles, fly, right, Brandon? And showing his respect, he's here to honor Coach Cobb, who we'll hear from later. It's a good deal. So, hey, but this year's Reisenhover winner was actually known more for his, he was a gunslinger at Hereford High School back in the day, more as a football player than a baseball player. But when the Baltimore Orioles selected him in the 9th round of the 2010 Major League Draft, he signed. He said, I'm going. His path to the major leagues tests his will to the max. Riding minor league buses for 6 years will do that and even more. And what ticked him off last April when the Orioles traded him off to the Los Angeles Angels turned out to be a blessing in disguise. One, no doubt, the Orioles regret. Given the chance to pitch in places like Yankee Stadium and Fenway Park on a regular basis, he flourished with the Angels, becoming the major leagues one of the best feel-good stories of 2017. By July, he was a mainstay in manager Mike Socha's rotation, finishing the year 10-3 record, 3.64 ERA, and 121 innings of work. He struck out 73, and he became the first Angels rookie starter since Jarrett Weaver in 2006 to reach double-digit wins. And it needs to be noted, 2 of those wins came against the Orioles. But there is no doubting his best pitch arrived on January 18th when he married his sweetheart, Molly. And real quick here, I'd like to say on a personal note, I'd like to give him a tip of the cap whenever we call him from the Globe News and bother him after a start or text him. He's always gracious for an interview. He's just a good dude, and this was cool for him to be here today because just after this ceremony, he's headed off to spring training in sunny Arizona. So please, help me in welcoming the man who paid his dues, who will gladly be a thorn in the Orioles' side the rest of his big league life, the 2016 Dick Reisenhover Award winner, Los Angeles Angels starting pitcher, Parker Bridwell.
No, you don't have to sit down. No, I can sit down. I'd just like to take a minute to thank everybody, for being here. My family, my friends, some high school coaches, my grandma, my wife, my in-laws. Thank y'all. I'd like to thank the big man upstairs. Without him, I'm nothing. So I appreciate this from the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. it's an honor to receive this award, and go Angels.
Congratulations, Parker. Well, the D. Henry Memorial Award is annually, I think, one of the highlights of these ceremonies. For the winner, you know, often embodies the best of what sports can offer and sometimes transcends sports. And that's namely overcoming challenges and excelling despite obstacles. To present this award is Hall of Fame committee member Phil Woodall. Phil?
The D. Henry Memorial Award goes to an athlete who overcomes adversity with class, heart, and determination during the year. D. Henry was an Amarillo native and graduate of West Texas State University. He is known for his career as a coach and teacher. At one time, he was the head coach of Canadian High School. Additionally, he taught for 6 years in Amarillo at Stephen F. Austin Junior High. Henry was a very popular summer baseball coach. He was stricken by cancer, which caused one of his legs to be amputated. At the end of his life, he was a YMCA baseball coach. Despite his battle with cancer, he continued to coach the team from his bed, even though he was too ill to make it to the field. During his bedridden days, his parents and students presented him with a 14-inch television for entertainment and $348 in cash. He died in 1960 at the age of 39.
And as was explained there, it's usually an athlete who overcomes that adversity with class, heart, and determination. Well, this year, as we looked at everybody, we decided that the entire community of Canyon High School was deserving of this award. Think about what they've gone through. You go back to the 4th straight girls basketball championship down in San Antonio, and guess who was there to be there a part of it? A young lady by the name of Tatum Schulte. She was there as a part of that state championship team. She didn't play, but I guarantee you she was a part of it. Her lovely family is over here, and I just want to show you this picture of this beautiful family, including Tatum Schulte. There was another young lady on that team that I've come to like, and was really liked down at Texas Tech, Angel Hayden. And she adopted that Tatum is her true angel. And she wanted to be tough like Tatum, and Tatum is her source of inspiration. And we all know the story of what happened to Tatum. And she got her wings on October 30th of 2017 at the age of 9. And a lot of other things have gone on down at the Canyon High School community. As we look back also during that state tournament, Coach Joe Lombard and Babs, his wonderful wife, Tate Lombard and his wife Paige, had a son by the name of Archer James Lombard, had some heart defects, born in April, had some surgery, and passed away 10 days later. Actually, on that tournament back in March, and a day after the Lady Eagles left for San Antonio, Bab's mom passed away at the age of 85. And guess what? Babs was down there the next day taking stats. September 16th, Tatum's principal at Crestview Elementary, Shelley Williford, at the age of 44, passed away. And I saw this young lady play volleyball earlier in the season. I knew her dad, Guy Crenshaw. I used to call him Guy. It was a joke between us because of the Guy Lafleur of the Dallas Stars. And his wife and Emma's mom, Debbie, passed away on October 27th of 17, 3 days prior to Tatum. And that was 3 years and 1 day after Guy had passed away. And Emma kept on playing as a sophomore volleyball player and helped lead the Lady Eagles to the playoffs. Emma's mom, Debbie, she had survived breast cancer 10 years, and then it returned again in the fall as it made to her bones. They had a little dance for her, fundraiser down there, and she just said, "It's okay, just don't ask me to cut a rug, please." That was the type of people that we have down there in the Canyon community. Coach Lombard wrote these, and I asked him if I might share it with you. The gold standards, the core values, and it's TATUM, tough like Tatum, teammates. Pray, play, and pray for them. Be remembered as a good teammate, respected by all your coaches and peers. Communicate. Attitude is everything every day. Tradition, be the hardest working team in the state. Extraordinary defense, rebounding and fundamentals, confident, under control, well-prepared team play. Unselfishness, be a servant leader. Be humble, but do your job. Be kind, but not mean. Mental toughness, champions have it. Learn from mistakes and get ready for the next play. So the D. Henry Award this year goes to the community at Canyon High School, going through all these losses that they've had. And it's been tragic, but you know the one thing about it, they've given us an inspiration to do other things. And to accept on behalf of the Canyon High School community is the athletic director of CISD, Mr. Steve Williams.
When you're fixing to give the toughest speech you've ever given, you look for reasons to kind of break the tension. I thought I was going to chew Kobe out for not recognizing me as his first head football coach, you know. And then we had this little special girl come running up here, and I think that's what did it for me. I don't think anybody saw what was coming, but I could see it coming. It was pretty funny. But on behalf of all involved, thank you goes out to the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame Committee for this special recognition. Now, back in the 80s, while coaching at Freona High School, we experienced the painful loss of a vibrant young lady who is a beloved member of our student body. And during those dark days, I vividly remember my minister, Archie Eccles, passing on to me these comforting words that have stuck with me for decades. Life goes on. It's heart-wrenching to think that the families, student body, staff, and community of Canyon have experienced the loss of so many prominent members. Guy Crenshaw, Debbie Crenshaw, Tatum Schulte were all very involved, beloved, and admired members of the Eagle athletic community. But there were others, including Shelley Williford, Tatum's principal at Crestview, who suddenly passed just weeks before Tatum. These words from the Tatum Schulte family. On behalf of Tatum and the Schulte family, we'd like to thank the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame Selection Committee on presenting the Canyon High School community with this award. We couldn't think of a more deserving group of adults and students. They definitely know how to step up to the plate when there's a need in our community. Living in Canyon and the Texas Panhandle is such a blessing. We can't thank you enough for all the support shown to our family. Now, for me, working within this community this year, I've witnessed the resolve, character, faith, and love that they all have for each other, and it's been quite special. That being said, no student body, faculty, or community should ever have to endure the pain that this community has had to live through over the past few years. To me, it just isn't fair. But they've come together during the toughest of times, and they've been at their very best. Their faith has been on display 24/7, 365, and it's been an inspiration for all. They've endured. They've lived through it. They've demonstrated that life goes on. When I was back in high school in 1974, a young man from Groom, whom I played basketball against, Donald Bergen, was awarded the D. Henry Award. In 1999, one of my football players from Freona, Bluefield, was a recipient. I have a very personal interest in this award, and I have had for many years, decades. I understand and I know its meaning, thus making it the highest honor for me to be here today to accept this on behalf of the Canyon High community. The D. Henry Memorial Award gives us the opportunity today to recognize a small community south of Amarillo who has faced the harshest adversity that's devastating, but yet did it with the strongest of faith. Our hearts go out to each and every one of you, but our thanks do as well. Thank you to all of the Canyon High community, but most importantly, the family members, for inspiring us to stand tall and model that life lesson. Life goes on. Would the families please stand?
And then because of my note-taking, I forgot to mention that baseball coach John Doan's father passed away in December, Mr. Parker Doan down in Tulia. So again, tough like Tatum and tough like the Crenshaws, and we thank you, and I believe we still have an opportunity. If you'd like, please donate to that foundation to help them out. Thank you so very much.
Well, now to the signature portion of today's ceremonies, and that's the addition of the newest class of 3 into the previous 175 into the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. You know, there's something unique about the Panhandle, and if you've lived here for any length of time, you know that. Maybe it's the location. Maybe it's because we're often an afterthought to the bigger populations downstate. Maybe it's because we have to fight a lot harder for what we deserve. But there's a sense of togetherness, a sense of oneness, of unity that exists here that's hard to find in most regions. You know, in sports, we have some bitter rivals. We fight each other like cats and dogs on the field, on the courts, on the mat. And then we take on outsiders, and then it's all for one. You know, that's never more apparent than in the high school playoffs when there's only a few teams left and every town feels like it's their own. There's a pride here, perhaps born because of where we are. But when an athlete or coach excels beyond our borders or within over a period of time, they no longer have hometowns. They're just from here. They're a part of us. Their success is our success, and their heartbreak can be our heartbreak. In a simple yet sincere way today, as is done every second Sunday in February, we honor them the best way we can. Really, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for making us proud of the Panhandle. Thank you for calling it home. You know, all of today's inductees at one time or another have been around more elaborate fanfare. They've been in more exciting locales, competed in or had their teams play in front of bigger crowds or brighter spotlights. And although this is very nice, it's not extravagant or elaborate because, well, it's not us. But if we're not, it's not because we don't see this as any less important. We're just down to earth and simple, and so are our ceremonies. You know, when a person becomes a stranger in his hometown, something sad has happened. Someone has turned his back on the other. The past is forgotten, the roots are pulled up and thrown away, and part of him is gone and never to return. On the other hand, I can think of no better honor than from those of where you grew up, where your career started, or where it continued for as long as it could. It's a place where you learned the sport of wrestling. You went on to coach boys and girls state championships and 21 individual state champions, coached 25 All-Americans and 2 Olympians. It's a place where you just wanted to do what your older brothers did, and then went on to do what no one from Texas has ever done. A place where you came to on faith from over 1,000 miles away and became the state's most successful volleyball coach in history. You know, to be honored by your hometown, your home area, says a lot about you as an athlete and a coach, but it says so much more about you as a person. So let's get to it, and let's install the 60th class into the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. In the mid-1960s, just before he entered Tascosa High School, Johnny Cobb lost his father. As he wandered the halls that first day, Coach James Kyle, a friend of his dad, demanded to see his schedule. Nope, he said, we're changing your schedule. We're changing first period. Well, it did more than change Johnny's schedule. It changed his life. Coach Kyle was the wrestling coach, and Johnny's first period became wrestling. And it began a connection to the sport, and more importantly, to those who compete in it, that has lasted for more than 50 wildly successful years. First of all, as someone who he said has done his share of asphalt wrestling, Johnny was thrilled to learn that there are actually weight classes, and he could look his opponent in the eye rather than in the belly button. He wrestled at 112 pounds and ballooned to 119 by his senior year. All 3 years he won district, which in the 1960s was as far as you could go. In that time, he lost just one match. Johnny would go on to wrestle at Oklahoma State, the preeminent collegiate wrestling program in the country. He was bothered some by injuries, and after that, he got married, returned to Amarillo, and went to the Maverick Club, which had been a big part of his life and earlier his father's life. He was offered the position of assistant program director in 1971. If you know Johnny, when Johnny does something, he doesn't just do it a little bit. He started a wrestling program there with 6 kids, and soon it was more than 100. He became a founding member of the Panhandle Amateur Wrestling Association and hosted the state's first state tournament. In a way, he kind of became the Pied Piper of Panhandle wrestling. Wherever he went, kids followed. In 1988, he became the boys wrestling coach at Tascosa, his alma mater. And when the girls would eventually begin wrestling, he took over that program. He would do that for the next 20 years, though eventually giving up the girls' program. During that time, he was a 2-time Texas High School Coach of the Year. His teams won 3 state titles, the first coach to win a boys and girls state championship. He coached 21 state champions, including a 3-time champion, Brandon Slay, who 8 years later would be crowned Olympic champion at the 2000 Sydney Games. Johnny had that instinctive way of knowing how to reach kids and get the best out of them. Maybe because he saw a lot of him in them, those who needed guidance and direction at the same age. As he said, and other coaches have said, they really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Johnny retired from public schools in 2008, but again, you know how that goes. He long had a goal of helping establish the first collegiate wrestling program in Texas at one of the local universities. Finally, at Wayland Baptist in Plainview, maybe just to get him quiet and get him out of there, they said, okay, we'll do it if you'll be the coach. Okay, deal. So for the next 5 years, Johnny drove 150 miles round trip from Amarillo to Plainview just about every day. His first year, I wish he thought it through, he set practice at 6:30 a.m., which meant he had to leave Amarillo at, well, let's just say it lasted 1 year. It's kind of learn as you go. Of course, he just wasn't going to have some kind of intramural program and call it good. Johnny took a team of nothing into quite a bit of something. In his time at Wayland, the men had 20 NAIA national qualifiers, 3 All-Americans, 1 national finalist, and 3 scholar athletes. The women, 22 All-Americans, and in Tamara Mensah Stock, a national champion, an Olympic trials champion, a U.S. Open champion. The women had 3 consecutive top 8 finishes at nationals. In 2014, he retired again, but of course he didn't. He's been working with USA Wrestling and the Titan Mercury Club, focusing on women Olympic hopefuls, like Tamra, who will compete in the 2020 Olympics, and yes, Johnny will be there in Tokyo. A scholarship fittingly has been endowed in Wayland in Johnny's name. He's a member of the Texas Wrestling Ring of Honor and the Texas chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. And today, He's the 176th member of the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. From Amarillo, Mr. Johnny Cobb. It is all yours. You've earned it, man.
Oh boy, I'm short. Hey, and yes, that was my little granddaughter that decided to take center stage a while ago. Boy, this was kind of tough because you, first of all, after seeing the Schultes over there and everything, you kind of had to remotivate after you wiped a tear out of your eyeball. But hey, John Mark and Lance both know how I can get when I have an opportunity to talk about wrestling. So I promise you guys, I'll just keep this just right under 1 hour. Now, I am just kidding. I see you getting the hooks out, and I don't want to be a contestant for the Gong Show. So, hey, I would really like to first mention that my lovely wife, Beverly, and all of her work and effort and everything she's done, my rock. And then for all you guys that wrote in letters and had to say something nice about me, I kind of hate that you had to lie like that, but I really do appreciate it. And what an honor to be standing up here with James Mays. What a stud. And not only that, you know, what a great guy this guy is. And Jan Barker, do we have to really go over all that coaching legend? But she's not only a tremendous coach, a tremendous person off that volleyball court. And there is a reason why she is 2017 Amarillo Woman of the Year. It's because she deserves it. And it's an honor to be up here with you two guys. Oh my gosh, the area athletes and coaches within this Texas Panhandle, holy smokes. And coaches like Joe Lombard, I mean, hey, and coaches like a Jimmy Thomas out at Bushland who devises a special play for a special kid called Ray Ray. That's just first-class act. That's what that is. Well, I don't feel like you're really honoring me so much today as you are honoring the sport of wrestling today. Now, why anybody would really want to do this crazy sport, I am not really quite sure. Because, I mean, you're on the mat every day with a constant one-on-one fight. You just got rules. And you either got a black eye, you got a bloody nose, you got a busted lip, a cauliflower ear. And then when you get off the mat, you got to run wind sprints and stadium stairs till you nearly throw up. And then when you get home, you can't really eat what you want to eat because you probably got to make weight the next day. It's nuts. Hey, but I tell you what, the athletes who go ahead and pursue this sport, I mean, they just embrace the battle. And somewhere within their family history, I firmly believe that they've inherited a warrior spirit. And, you know, and one thing about wrestling, you're going to be able to have the opportunity to find out what you're made out of. And one of the best things I ever did, and John Mark touched on it, was when I got back from Oklahoma State, I went down to the Maverick Club, where I grew up as a kid, and talked to Jim Lee, the director down there, and, you know, and he says, hey, why don't you start the first only youth wrestling program in the Texas Panhandle? I said, well, okay, and then enter the Funks. Dory Funk Sr., Dory Funk Jr., and Terry Funk. They buy us our first wrestling mat, and then I recruit some old buddies like George Dodgen and Doug Slay and Hugh Potts, and we just got that thing rolling, and who would have ever believed that today, now you look, and there are wrestling programs, youth wrestling programs, all over the Texas Panhandle. And look at who's come from there that's come back, the coaches that came from that program. Coaches like a Scott Tankersley, like a David Carino sitting over here, like a Joe Stafford and a Steve Nelson, all of them with multiple state championship titles to their names from that Maverick Club. And then other guys who were overlooked a little bit, like a Michael Stovall, who is now Dr. Stovall and one of the chief administrators for the liberal public school system. Now, when I went to Tascosa, there was a man down there at the Maverick Club taking charge of that wrestling program named Henry Harmony. And boy, did that guy ever take that program to new heights. I mean, and to this day, that Maverick Club program is still one of the most competitive and toughest wrestling programs in the country. Well, I was really lucky. Got to coach 2 athletes that wound up making an Olympic team. Now, I meant lucky because, let's face it, you got to get a little bit lucky to have athletes like that. Now, Tamara, she just got back from Russia, couldn't be here today, but she just won the toughest tournament recognized on the planet there in Russia, defeating a Chinese wrestler who is 3rd in the world. And then now she's leaving for Sweden, like tomorrow, so I hate that she couldn't be here. But now she's got a goal of going to 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo and bringing home a gold medal. Now, Brandon Slay, does anybody not know him or not know that he won the Olympics in 2000 in Sydney? Well, also, on his way to doing that, he defeated the Russian giant, and still, that match today is still recognized in wrestling as one of the greatest upsets in Olympic wrestling history. But not just the stud that Brandon is, what really defines the guy is that he's just such a first-class act. And I can guarantee you, if you look up in the dictionary, role model, his name is right beside it. I mean, just an outstanding individual on and off that mat. And I could not be more proud of him. Brandon, would you please stand up for a minute? Come on, get up. I know, but do it. Amarillo's Olympic gold medal wrestler right there. I can't tell you how much it means to me for you to be here today, buddy. Okay, and having athletes like that, and I've been lucky, not just those 2, to have so many. I was just a spoke in the wheel. And I can tell you this, you can see, and I think it got mentioned a few times, I'm not just a really big guy, but this jacket would have to be a 5X, extra large. It'd have to look like a tent on me in order to put all the names on this jacket that need to be on it that have contributed to all these wrestlers' success. And I mean, first of all, my direct coach, it took many, many coaches, but like the coaches I got to work directly with, like a Kenny Medling and like a Donna Welch and a Gary Chambers and Aaron Meister out at Wayland. I mean, and then it took teachers who cared about these kids. It took workout partners that were willing to just grind it out with them every day. And it took parents like a Doug Slay and a George Dodge and a Gary Sims and a Jerry Quinto and other individuals like a Dr. Wayne McIntyre. Hey, I would still be standing up here at the same time tomorrow calling out names in order to get them all on this one jacket. And, of course, I certainly would be gonged way before that happened. But you know who you are, and it truly does take a village. And I was real lucky. I got to coach both a men's and a women's program. And I can tell you this, that there are some real differences in dealing with those 2 teams. But one of the things that I know Coach Barker goes by, and I do too, is that one of the main things to keep in your mind is that those kids really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And one of my biggest compliments I think I got from some of those kids was they started calling me Coach Dad. And a lot of that's because they had to listen to my lectures all the time. But one of them went like this with my men's team. Always respect women. And when you become a father someday, you be the best dad you know how to be. And now, what I always did, I did things that what guided me was I wanted to do things to make my kids proud of me. And now I look out there and see my kids and the kind of parents that they become. I'm the one who could not be more proud. And I've always believed I've tried to coach a kid, not just an athlete, but I'm telling you, the parenting kind of went along with the philosophy I have in coaching. I think to be successful with these athletes, I think you need to be coordinated. You need to know how to stand on one foot, and you pat a kid on the back while you're kicking him in the butt at the same time. And trust me, that takes some coordination sometimes. Now, one thing that I learned too in working with all these so many different coaches and in so many different areas of even athletics is one thing they all had in common, and that's that they were all colorblind. They didn't care whether that kid was black or white or brown or Asian. Made no difference. If that kid wanted to strive for excellence but do it with some integrity, if they wanted to give it their best effort every day and show some good character, that never entered into the mix of color. You know, we were all working together, striving toward the same goals. Now, I do believe that the vast, vast majority of all Americans do strive to be colorblind. Now, my dad, he died defending this country and the rights and the privileges and the freedoms that all of us share today. And so for me, whenever I see that American flag, that same one that draped my father's casket, you know, and when I hear that national anthem, I'm going to proudly stand at attention and salute that flag. Okay, I didn't need these anyway, but, and okay, so I see the hook coming out, and so I'm going to go ahead and drop the mic with this. May God bless this wonderful country that we are lucky enough and privileged enough to live in, and thank you again for honoring this tough old sport of wrestling. Thank you.
Okay, you can have it. Congratulations. Johnny, you mind if I move the mic up just a little bit? Like a foot and a half? When James Mays was a little boy growing up in Hereford, he would, like a lot of us, watch the track competition in the Olympics on TV. And he said there would be this one thought that kept going through this little impressionable mind. And that was, why would anyone run when someone not making them run? See, at that age, James was not really into running. He was more running in a team sport like basketball, which was his first choice. But just to go out and run laps on a track, no. But like it or not, running was in the Mays family genes. Older brothers Percy and Luther were exceptional track runners for Hereford High School. And as James got into junior high and then into high school, coaches could see little brother's frame and speed, and they said, you're running track. He was not a sprinter, but he combined good speed with stamina, and that was a recipe for the 2-lap, 800, and 400 leg on a 1600 relay. Percy set a number of school records at Hereford. Luther came along and broke those records, and then James, who really looked up to both brothers, came along to break Luther's. As a senior at Hereford in 1977, James once stayed in the Class 5A 880. Yeah, it was still yards in those days. And an all-time area record of 152 flat, a mark that would stand for 40 years. He could have run track collegiately almost anywhere, but chose nearby Texas Tech, which at that time was on a shoestring budget for a major college. But both brothers had gone there, and track coach Corky Oglesby and basketball coach Gerald Myers had an agreement that James could play both basketball and run track. And that was a bad idea. James didn't really have the time to devote to both. He spent his freshman year in basketball as a redshirt, not playing, and then he wasn't in 800 condition well enough in the spring to do all that much. Then he had a conversation with Jesse Owens, the Olympic great from the 1936 Berlin Games, who was at Tech to speak. In a one-on-one conversation, he told James, in essence, forget basketball. Your future and your talent is in track. And with that, he went straight track, and he took off. The spring of his sophomore year, 1979, he was at the Drake Relays in Des Moines, Iowa. There was the parade in front of their hotel for the event, and Jesse Owens was the grand marshal. James and Corky Oglesby went out of their hotel to watch a little bit of it. And there was Owens riding on a convertible. He saw James in the crowd, whose nickname was Jam, and waved and said, "Good luck, Jam." 1 year later, he still remembered that name. And that day, Jam would set a tech school record in the 800, and from that point on, he, his coaches, teammates, and competition saw what a truly focused and committed James Mays could be. With his long strides that seemed to gobble up a track and a gait that looked effortless, he would go on to do few things an 800 runner in Texas has ever done. He would become the school's first three-time All-American in any sport, twice winning the Southwest Conference title in the 800 and once indoors in the 600. He set a school record of 1:46.42 that stood for more than 20 years. He finished third and fourth in the NCAA national meet in 1980 and 81. Outside of running for Tech, James competed in 3 U.S. Olympic trials, narrowly missing the finals in 1984, and was the National Olympic Festival champion in 1983. James competed on 10 U.S. national track teams and ran in the Europe circuit for a number of years, and he was a favorite pace setter for Steve Cram and his world records in the 1,500 mile and 2,000 meters. Along the way, his career best of 1:44.62 in the 800 was the fastest ever run by a native Texan, and it still is. He was the first to break 150 in 3 decades, in the 1970s, the 1980s, and the 1990s. James was inducted into the Texas Tech Hall of Honor in 1991. And in 2000, he was named one of the top 100 sports legends in the Texas Panhandle in the 20th century by the Globe News. And just last year, he went into the old Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. For about the last 25 years, he's made his home in Dallas. Perhaps the finest track runner in the history of this area, the 177th member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, a native of Hereford, Mr. James Mays. James.
Thank you, John Mark. One thing John Mark didn't say was my greatest achievement was making God the head of my life. And everything that I've done is just glory to him. So I thank you all. First of all, John and I went to school at Tech together. So and he looks a lot better now than he did back when we were running. I am so honored. You know, this is really amazing to me. I'm here with Coach Johnny and Jan, and this is just unbelievable. And all of these other great athletes. This is incredible to be up here with you guys. I'm totally honored to be here with you all. Johnny, you know, I could see why he's such a successful coach. I mean, I would wrestle for him right now. I talked to him yesterday. He had me fired up. You know, I'd get dragged all over the mat, but I don't, you know, I'd do everything. And then Jan, I mean, I don't even know how to play volleyball, but I'd do something, you know, whatever you want me to do. Middle block, okay. You need skills for that? These are great people. I tell you, I'm so fortunate to be going in with them. And Johnny, he's probably half the people here are here for him. But he played a trick on me yesterday. Stacy was taking pictures, and we were hugged up, and he said, "Your fly's open." So I'm down like this, and so if you see a picture of me going like this, it's his fault, but payback is coming. Wow, it's great to be in West Texas. I want to thank my family, my brothers here, and his friend. And my friend from Germany is here, Andrea Willenthang. He's coming from Deutschland. And I also have a lot of friends from Hereford. I wanted to know how many people from Hereford are here. Would you please stand up if you're from Hereford? There's the mayor, Tom Snyder's here. We used to talk a lot back when we were. Look at these people from Hereford. I want to thank you. You know, a lot of you guys were with me when I was a senior in high school and ran state. And 40 years later, you're still here. And it's amazing. My friend Eddie Ambo, he beat me when I was in elementary school. Right there. He beat me, and I'm waiting on payback. I'm coming at you. I got some friends that I ran against, Chris Purcell and Joe Lovell. Yeah, we got to stand up. All the guys that I ran against back in high school, if you're here, please stand up. These guys kept me up a lot of nights, just worrying about having to run against these guys. But it's great to be here. I want to thank the Texas Panhandle Sports Committee, the Amarillo Chamber of Commerce Selection Committee, Stacy and Jim and everybody who's a part of this, Lance. Lance came up to me when I was in Lubbock and told me I was going to be inducted into the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. And, you know, the song that just kept going through my mind was, you know, who am I that the Lord of all the earth would care to know my name? You know, who am I that I could stand up among these great athletes and be counted as one of these members, you know? Who am I that my friends would think enough for me to come all the way to Amarillo to see me? You know, and it's not because of who I am, but it's because of what he's done. And it's not because of what I've done, but it's because of who he is that I'm standing here today. So if I do nothing else, thank you. This whole program, Kids Incorporated, to me it's about inspiring young kids, you know, and I've been a coach and teacher for a lot of years, and that has been a real passion for me, is just working and touching kids, you know. I got a chance to meet Johnny's grandkids yesterday, and I got a Red Raider, future Red Raider, headed that way. But man, it's just great to work with kids and inspire kids the way Jesse Owens inspired me. And you know, I went to school at Texas Tech, and there were several other people that inspired me at Tech. One of them is, and John knows this guy. He wrote a lot of stories about him. Was Gabe Rivera. And if you never heard of Gabe Rivera, Gabe is a guy that I really looked up to. Gabe was like 6'5", so I looked up to him. And he weighed about 300 pounds. He was our nose tackle, and he was an All-American. Got drafted, went to the Pittsburgh Steelers first round, All-American, everything. And I got to know Gabe because I had a chance to room on the third floor with the football players one year, you know, because I was the only track player that got to room with him. And Gabe was huge, and I would always kid with him. I'd see him walking down the hall. I'd say, Gabe, where y'all going? You know, and then I remember the first night in my dorm room, I was doing my homework, and you know how like in the movie Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs started walking and everything started shaking. And so I was in my room, and all of a sudden the room started shaking, the books started flying off, and I looked at my room, and I said, what is that? He said, oh, man, that's just Gabe going down to take a shower, man. But it was fun being the only track guy on the football floor, because I used to sneak into the big lineman's room and slap him upside the head and take off running, you know. And they try to catch me. Maze. But I couldn't do that with Gabe. Oh, no, Gabe was fast. I tried that one time with Gabe, man. And I hit him. I started running. I looked back, and he was like, ah! And he grabbed me by my shoulder. I was like, God, Gabe, it's steak night. You can have mine, man. But Gabe was just, he was a very inspirational person to me. And he actually had me wanting to improve in my sport. Another person who was really important to me was my coach, Corky Oglesby. Corky Oglesby, we just lost him about 2 months ago. He died of pancreatic cancer, and he was probably the most, next to Jesse Owens, he was probably the biggest influence in my track career. Corky was one of the smartest coaches that we had in the Southwest Conference because he kept everything so simple. You know, I remember talking with Corky about racing strategy, and he would say the same thing to me every time. He'd say, get out fast, lean to the left, and be the first one back. That's pretty simple, and it worked. But, you know, I'm just going to say that the main thing for me, the most important thing for me is just being a good example for the young people and for the kids. I've had a chance to do a lot of things in my career. I've seen some of the most beautiful sights in the world. I've had a chance to go to Pisa and see the Leaning Tower. Had a chance to take a train through the Swiss Alps, see the beautiful landscapes. I've had a chance to see the beautiful fjords and lakes in Sweden. But I tell you, today, just standing right here in front of you all is one of the most beautiful sights that I can imagine. All the beautiful faces here in West Texas. It's been such a thrill to be here with you, and I just praise God for you. Thank you for this opportunity, and God bless you and God keep you. Thank you.
Congratulations, James. You know, in any life, especially one that includes a full career, there's a lot of twists and turns along the way, a combination of faith, boldness, and a little bit of risk-taking. Jan Wise was a child of the Pacific Northwest. She grew up in Yakima, Washington, where she played volleyball and softball and got a degree from Linfield College in Oregon. In the early 1980s, she had a brother, Mike, who was an instructor pilot out of Enid, Oklahoma. He had a fiancée from Amarillo, and her father, Amarillo pastor Ed Modrick, suggested Mike's sister might come to Amarillo and look for a girls' coaching job. There's a little more plentiful out here. There's usually several openings in the ISD. And so she did, taking over as a coach at Bowie Junior High in midterm when that coach was on maternity leave. When she decided not to come back, Jan got the job full-time in 1984. She was there 2.5 years, even won a city 9th grade title in volleyball, which is kind of a hint of things to come. But she wanted to be a high school volleyball coach. And Amarillo ISD athletic director Ed Liddick told her that she really couldn't jump from that position from junior high, that she needed high school experience. He offered her a job at Caprock in 1986, assisting in basketball and track, neither her specialty. She took that job with one caveat, though. Hey, just don't forget me if something comes open. And Ed didn't. The Amarillo High volleyball job came open the next spring, a plum job after Kim Hudson had left to go to West Texas State. There were 12 applicants for the job, and Ed Lennox took a gamble on a relatively inexperienced woman with no high school volleyball coaching experience. So Jan Wise became the Amarillo High volleyball coach in May 1987, and 2 months later she became Jan Barker, marrying Danny, and the course was set. Over the course of the next 31 seasons, Jan Barker would become the greatest high school volleyball coach in the state of Texas. Her name and her team, the Amarillo High Lady Sandies, would be etched in the history books of state athletics that will stand a long test of time. She won a 5A state title in just her second year in 1988. She won a state title in her 30th year in 2016, and she won 8 of them in between. All told, Amarillo High won a record 10 under Jan, literally 1 for every 3 years she coached. And they went to the state tournament 14 times, almost once every 2 years she coached. Her teams won it all when maybe they shouldn't. They won it all when they should. They just won. The 1994-1998 teams were unbeaten, 37-0 and 39-0. In the 2000s, from 2006 to 2009, Amarillo High had the most dominant stretch in state history. They won 4 state titles in a row and won 187 out of 195 matches. And as a cherry on top, her daughters, Brianne and later Danielle, overlapped on those teams and were standouts on those powerhouse state champions. Those two, now head coaches in the Metroplex, were her biological daughters, but really, she had about 12 to 15 daughters per year. She invested in her players as people, as kids, and she wanted to make them the best volleyball players and volleyball team that she could. In all, she coached 16 All-Americans and numerous All-Staters. 34 of her players would sign to play at Division I schools, and about 25 of her former players are now coaches. Her record kind of looks like a misprint. 1,116 wins and just 175 losses. Her winning percentage over 3 decades, 86.4%. Some believe Jan might retire after the state title in 2016, and she thought about it, but it just didn't quite feel right. But it did this past November. ending 31 years as the longest tenured head coach in AISD history. Last summer, she was inducted into the Texas Girls Coaches Association Hall of Fame. It's been a whirlwind since November. She was also the 2017 Amarillo Globe News Woman of the Year, the first such recipient with a sports background. And today, well, there's at least one more. The best high school volleyball coach in Texas history, the 178th member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame from Amarillo High, Miss Jan Barker.
Thank you all so much. I want to start out by thanking my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Without him leading and guiding my life, none of this would have happened. None of the blessings that I've had in my life would have happened, and my blessing with my wonderful family and my blessings with the kids that I've been so fortunate to coach. Such great kids throughout the years, and it's just been wonderful. I want to thank the Amarillo Globe News and Lance and John Mark and all these guys that have been writing for so many years and have really allowed volleyball to gain popularity, because they took the time and effort to write about what we do in volleyball. When I first came here, when I first got the job at Amarillo High School in '87, the head coaches at the schools would say, we just don't get very much write-ups in the paper or on TV, really, the most part. And I remember one sports guy told them, who really cares about volleyball? Well, we set out to make people care about volleyball, and that was really important for the growth of volleyball in this city, in this area, and what these kids can do. I've sat up here a number of times and watched people get inducted, and just have been so amazed at the things that people have done, and no less amazed at these two guys that I've had yesterday and today have a chance to get to know just a little bit, and they're wonderful people. The things they've done are awesome, and I'm honored to be able to sit up with you guys, so congratulations to you guys. When I was 7 years old, my father died of cancer, and we grew up, my brother and my sister and I, with my mom, who was not even a high school graduate. Little did I know, I know now as a teacher, I was considered an at-risk child. If they even had those terms back in those days, I don't know. I'm glad I didn't know that, because my mom always told me, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your lot in life, but if you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want to do. And let me just have that be something for you young athletes here. No matter what your lot in life is, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. You can make yourself something great. I graduated from college in December of 1982, and being one that loved adventure and travel, I jumped at the opportunity to come to Amarillo from Oregon to look for a job. My first interview was about a week after I got here with a man by the name of Rod Schroeder, and we know he all became the AISD superintendent for a number of years. And little did I know at that time that this interview would be the start of something big. My timing was great because I needed a coach, as John Mark told you. I was able to take that job, and when the lady didn't come back for the next year, I had her job at Bowie Junior High, and to be honest, those are three of the best years I ever had. I didn't know how I was going to be able to deal with a bunch of junior high kids, but it was a great time, and I learned a lot from that time. Shout out to Mr. Ed Lennick. I will always love that man. He took a big chance on this nobody from the Pacific Northwest who didn't have any head experience. He just knew me because of what I did at the middle school level, pretty much. So I thank him for that, and a basketball track coach from Caprock proved not to be the #1 choice of many in Sandyland for the head volleyball job. But fortunate for me, Mr. Lennick didn't let that stop him. Of course, my life stress levels increased to levels previously unknown, but as the years wore on, it got better in so many ways. Each state championship has its own memories, which are too many to share at this point, but very special nonetheless. I could share memories of those, but I'd go longer than Johnny, and I don't think anybody wants me to do that. But when I look back on them, the main thing I remember are the girls and how they were able to achieve their goals, and so many lessons that were learned on the way there. Even with so many teams that didn't make it to state, you know, you have to be a coach to understand the day in and day out hard work these athletes put in their sport. And because of that, the strong relationships that you gain through it all. When I get emails and cards from former athletes telling me the impact that Sandy Volleyball had on their lives, the things in life that they learned through it all, and how it has impacted them in such a positive way, I am reminded that is why I coach and teach. And I'm also reminded of how important coaches are in young lives. I'll miss those relationships most of all. My daughters talk about how they don't think my husband and I ever went through that empty nest syndrome when they went off to college, because we always had about 14 kids each year. I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I have to say, speaking of my daughters, that the years that I had the great opportunity to coach them and the friends that they grew up with were some of the greatest years. It certainly didn't hurt that we won 4 state championships in a row at that time. Stressful, yes, but well worth it, and wonderful memories that we can speak of all the time. Working at Amarillo High School has been an experience I could never dream up. The support from all involved is just really amazing. There's something about being a Sandy, and I had to learn that when I got there, and that's why so many coaches, when they're at Amarillo High, they don't want to leave. There's something about being there and the support that we have from the administrators, from our athletic department for years, from the other coaches that are around our campus. We're all there for the right reasons. We're there for the kids. And we don't battle each other. We help each other, and we help our kids. My awesome assistant coaches that I've had throughout the years, who helped make my job so much easier than it could have ever been. We truly all enjoyed what we did, and all believe the need to make a difference in the lives of others. One of my assistant coaches, Corey Cooper Clements, is here. She came all the way in from Lubbock to be here, and I appreciate that. She's one of the best players that we ever had, was a national champion at Nebraska volleyball, came back to be an assistant coach and has been a head coach. She's just awesome, and I thank you for, these people keep calling you and asking you to say good things about me. I'm sorry they had to do that, but thank you very much. 35 years in AISD, I've worked with so many tremendous coaches and have learned from a lot of them. And I think mentors are so important in the young lives of young coaches. We all need to have mentors, and hopefully we think about that as we grow up. We need to be mentors. I just want to name a couple names that I really appreciate. When I was at Bowie Junior High for the first 3 years, our head coach there was a man by the name of Kyle Black. Kyle Black helped me to understand the expectations of a coach. Made me mad a couple times, but I appreciate what he did because I learned, and I appreciate his guidance. Larry Dipple, the head football coach at Emerald High for many years, he was a mentor to me in so many ways, and I appreciate him. Rosemary Jackson, she was the head girls basketball coach when I first started at Emerald High, and I'll tell you, she gave me great advice. This young coach was navigating a life that I really wasn't sure of at the time. She gave me some great advice, and I appreciate her. Even Alan Simpson, who was the boys basketball coach when I first got there, great advice. And they just kind of took me under their wing, both of them did, and helped me through it all. These coaches gave me a strong base to grow from, and I appreciate that so much. A special thank you to athletic directors, Mr. Ed Lennick, Mr. Tex Nolan, and Brad Thiessen for all their constant support and guidance. Couldn't ask for more from our athletic department. Of course, I'm so glad to have most of my family here with me today. My husband, Danny, who has supported me at times when things if I were alone, I probably couldn't have handled it, but he was my rock, and he was there to help me through it all, and I appreciate him so much. My daughter, Danielle, is here, and sadly, my other daughter, Brienne, was not able to be here. She's on the other side of that phone right there. But, you know, both of them were great players and are now great coaches in their own right, and I'm very, very proud of what they do. My extended family, my in-laws, Ted and Deanna Barker, and then my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Ty and Debbie Barker, are here to support me, and I couldn't ask for more for the support that these guys have given me this whole time. I was excited. There's some of my players here. I want you guys to stand up, okay? This is Chloe Robinson, Chloe Waldrop, and Sienna Sorrells. These are girls that are seniors this year on my team. They were state champions last year, and these three girls, I have to tell you, are three of the highest quality girls you could ever ask for in athletes, in students, and just who they are. And I thank you so much for being here, guys. Love you. I have to shout out to Sarah Butler, Carthel, back there. She was Sarah Butler when she was playing for me. She was a 94 state champion on my team. I'm glad she's here with her husband today. And such great people that I've had the opportunity to work with. I'll conclude this by saying how awesome this ceremony is, and to honor, that honors the best and the best every year. I have friends downstate that are coaches. When we talk about this thing, they're just amazed at the level of support and what our community does for our athletes and for our coaches and for our teams. So I say thank you very much to you all. We're so fortunate to live in the Panhandle where what we do is really celebrated. Thank you all so much, and God bless.
Well, okay, before we move on to the second half of the program today, people are grabbing their program going, my God, I thought I'd seen it all. No, before we close, a few quick thank yous. First of all, I'd like to thank David Jones, Chairman of the Hall of Fame Committee, for his direction. For Joe Luscombe and their crew behind the curtain. They're like the Wizard of Oz in their video presentation today. To Kids Inc. Executive Director Jimmy Lackey, for his work as a headline sponsor of the Hall of Fame, and most especially to Stacy Knight for her work and others at Kids Inc., as well as a lady named Lou Ann Garrett. Because if you're thinking, boy, there's a lot of moving parts here, a lot of people are here and things are going well, all you need to know is there's a lot of women pulling the strings that no one sees. Otherwise, I don't want to think about it. Also, an appreciation goes to the sponsors who have made this ceremony financially possible, and they're listed on your program. And if you're from out of town, please patronize them on your way out, although I'd suggest waiting a while on Boxwell Brothers funeral directors. But that's just me. For those of you who didn't see it, or you weren't hungry at 2 o'clock, or you want seconds, we still have food and drink back there, and just please feel free to hang around and fill up your plates, and as we say in Texas, you can visit for a while. In addition, Mike Haynes and Dave Wolforth have co-authored a book on the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, and it's complete with extended biographies. There is even a supplement on all the inductees, and they're in the back with any books that you might be interested in purchasing. Again, thank you for your attendance. It just wouldn't be much of a party if you didn't show up. And now, Hall of Fame committee member Jack Knight will offer our benediction, and on its conclusion, you are dismissed. It has been a super Sunday indeed. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, let us pray. Lord, we thank you for your presence with us here today, and we thank you so much for this time that we have had here to recognize the outstanding accomplishments of these athletes, players, coaches, and mentors. Bless each person who took the time to gather here today, Lord, and for those who spent many hours putting this together and taking part in this ceremony. We thank you for this food that has been prepared, and Now may your hand of protection be on all of us as we leave and go to our own homes. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Johnny, congratulations. You too, man. Oh, man. Congratulations.